Hello, in this video I visit the Classic Bike Festival Ireland at Bishopscourt Racing Circuit, which was held from Friday the 7th to Sunday the 9th of August in 2026. The main organisers of the event are Philip McCallan and Robin Titterington. Philip, of course, is an 11-time Isle of Man TT winner with 5 wins in the Northwest 200 and 5 in the Ulster Grand Prix. The main emphasis of the event turned out to be the race bikes and of course the racing. I only had my action camera with me, which really isn't the right camera for filming bike racing around a circuit, but I'd actually come along to see the classic motorcycles more than the racing, so perhaps I was, at least partly, at the wrong event. There was a small display of what I'd call classic road-going motorcycles, so let's have a look at what was there. The first bike I actually came across was this beautiful 1961 Moto B 175 Caderia. I think it's the same bike that I saw at David & Jones Open House in July, which I've covered in another video, and it's looking as wonderful as ever here. On the Japanese Motorcycle Club Northern Ireland display, in the spectator area, was what looks like to me, and I could be wrong, like a Honda CB750 250 race style from the 1960s. Very customized, as you can see. Alongside it was this race-styled Yamaha RD125, probably from the mid-1970s. And this pristine Honda CB 404. The 404 was a quite short production run and appeared in the mid-1970s. And then there's something a little more modern, this Honda CB R900 RR Fireblade RC33 from the second half of the 1990s, and a very standard looking Kawasaki Z350. These were made in the late 1970s into the early 1980s, and they used to be everywhere, a very popular bike, and for a good reason. Here's a Honda VFR 400R NC30 made from 1989 to the early 90s. I had one of these as a track bike, in fact rode it here at Bishopscourt, and I have to say it was probably one of the most fun bikes I've ever had on a track. I'm fairly small, so the little 400 suited me. Then this 1978 Yamaha RD250E, this one is fitted with all sports expansion chambers. To turn back and have a look at the VFR 400 to see if I remembered it, because it was maybe 25 or more years ago since I had my VFR 400. And then this 1982 Kawasaki AE80, a very small motorcycle indeed, and next to it was a 1970s Gilera 50TS. You know I like Italian bikes, and somehow the Italians managed to make them stylish regardless of the engine size. And now here's something at the other end of the scale, a Kawasaki Z1300. This is a 6-cylinder machine, and as you can see it has some very short exhaust. I imagine you wouldn't have much difficulty hearing this one coming. A Honda CB750 Four, one of the later single overhead cam bikes, probably from around 1976 or 77. And now we come on to some of my favourite Kawasaki two-stroke triples. First, the mighty Kawasaki H2 750 Mark IV, and in deep purple. If I were to buy one, that's the colour I'd want. Beside it is Kawasaki's famous H1 500 Mark III, the 498cc air-cooled two-stroke triple. This looks to be one of the later versions from around 1974 or 75. And next to that, its smaller brother, the Kawasaki S3 400 Mark II, another two-stroke triple. That's a pretty impressive little collection of early Kawasaki's all together. And a very attractive, in its white livery, a Yamaha RD 250 with, again, nice expansion chambers. And now we're going considerably further back in time. This is a Triumph Model P, a 500cc single valve from around 1925 or 26. Alongside it, a Sunbeam Model 9, a 493cc overhead valve single from the pre-war period. Just look at all the mechanical detail. Exposed pushrod tubes, separate gearbox, and those girder forks. Onto a matchless 500cc twin from the 1950s, a very attractive parallel twin. And then something completely different. One for the ladies. Well, at least that's how machines like this were marketed at the time. An Excelsior Autobike Supermodel G2. And as the advertisement proudly said, 2-speed gear, more power, better hill climbing. You can't ask for much more than that. And finally on this display, something that brings us nicely from the older road bikes into the racing machinery. This little Honda race bike, number 80, ridden by James Wilmot. I'm not certain of the exact model or capacity, but it is clearly has been built for one purpose. And here we have the set Giovanel's MotoGP 06 Ducati Desmodici. It's a 989cc 90-degree V4. A machine ridden by Kevin Swantz. This is the Suzuki RG 500 and he won the World Championship in 1993.
Now here's something very special, a 1975 Suzuki 500 Square 4 Grand Prix machine ridden by Barry Sheene. Sheene won the Dutch TT at Assen in 1985, giving Suzuki its first 500cc Grand Prix victory, and Barry his first win in the Premier class. He also won the Swedish Grand Prix that year. This 1981 OW53 500cc 4-cylinder 2-stroke, ridden by Barry Sheene in the first 3 Grand Prix of that season. It was later ridden by Steve Parrish in 1982. But there's a great story attached to this particular bike. Charlie Williams rode it at the Isle of Man in 1982, and when the bike apparently broke down, he pulled into a pub car park to get off the circuit. Someone gave Charlie a pint while he was there, and then they discovered that the problem was simply a kinked fuel line. They straightened the fuel line, Charlie finished his pint, got back in the Yamaha, and apparently went on to set a new lap record. They certainly did things different back then. Onto a bike ridden by Anthony Gobert. This 1997 Works Suzuki RGV 500 XR87, a 500cc V4. The Australian was known as a wild man in the 1997 GP scene. Gobert was an immediate sensation, with his wild antics both on and off track. He caused an even bigger sensation when he was sacked mid-season after testing positive for marijuana. He went on to ride in America on a Ducati in the AMA Superbike Championship, but when riding as a wildcard in the World Superbikes at Laguna Seca, he was sacked again for once more testing positive for marijuana. This 2018 factory Aprilia RS V4 was ridden by Northern Ireland's Eugene Laverty in the World Superbike Championship for the first 5 events of that year, and I have to admit I'm a Eugene Laverty fan. Eugene had previously been Max Biaggi's teammate at Aprilia back in 2012, and in my opinion Biaggi owns quite a bit to Laverty for helping him to win that year's World Superbike title. Eugene sacrificed some of his own race results, holding off rival riders and playing the ultimate wingman with team tactics. And that's a nice way to segue across to this Max Biaggi Yamaha YZR 500 replica in the famous Marlboro colours. Biaggi moved to Yamaha in 1999 and raced for them through to the end of the 500cc era. But here's a moment I always remember Max Biaggi for the incredible wheelie at Brno in 1998. But he was actually on a Honda NSR 500 then, just before he moved to Yamaha. The bike almost went beyond vertical, but somehow he caught it on the rear brake and brought it back down. There are plenty more race bikes around the paddock, including this great lineup of Suzukis, along with this Tigcraft KTM. Tigcraft wasn't a motorcycle manufacturer in the normal sense. It's essentially Dave Pearce, a highly regarded British specialist, race, frame and chassis builder. He sadly died in 2022. I won't try to cover every bike here, as we'll be here all day. But this last one did catch my attention. A Suzuki XR41 replica, number 59, in the classic Yoshimura colours. Now, I'm going to spend a little longer on this one, but I make no apology. I'm a Ducati fan. This beautiful Ducati in its shell racing colours just looks fantastic. Very much in the style of Ducati, TT and Endurance racers of the 1980s, with its lovely air-cooled V-twin sitting inside the tubular frame. I don't know the full history of this particular bike, so I won't pretend that I do, but it certainly caught my attention. Another bike for me that's hard to walk past is this wonderful Yamaha TZ350 style racer in the classic yellow, white and black racing colours. The TZ750 was one of the great racing two-strokes of the 1970s, an incredibly powerful and fearsome machine in its day. There were another 4 lovely Yamahas lined up beside it, but unfortunately I couldn't get a proper look at them, so we'll just have a quick walk past. This one again caught my attention. It's a Tigcraft race bike powered by a KTM LC4 single-cylinder engine. Quite an interesting bit of machinery. A near your Yamaha 2-stroke racer, and then a lovely old Norton race bike. All 3 looking like machines that were still very much used rather than just being there for display. And another one I had to stop at. A Ducati from the 916 family, one of the most beautiful motorcycle designs ever made in my opinion. This is obviously a race prepared machine, and whether it started life as a 916, a 996, or one of the other related models, it is unmistakably Tamburini Ducati shape. Even stripped down for racing, I think it still looks absolutely gorgeous. There was also this rather unusual Bimota tucked in beside a BMW. Bimota have always done things a little differently, taking engines from other manufacturers and building their own exotic chassis around them. You certainly don't see too many of these days. And this Suzuki GS 1000S. It caught my eye because mainly of its unusual blue and white colour scheme. This is one of Suzuki's great big super bikes of the period, a real muscle bike, and it still looks really good today. There were also some of the working race teams in the paddock, and this was a proper workshop setup with bikes being worked on throughout the day, and sitting right in front was a Honda No. 4 carrying the Robert Dunlop name. There was also a touching and significant display marking the 40th anniversary of the death of Eugene McDonnell at the 1986 Junior TT. On display was the Millar Racing EMC 250 GP machine he was riding in that race. Alongside was his Yamaha TZ350G, one of the last TZ350s manufactured by Yamaha. Eugene raced this machine successfully during 1984 at events throughout Ireland as well as the Isle of Man, Southern 100 and the Manx Grand Prix. It was this motorcycle that brought Eugene to the attention of Millar Racing. The Yamaha was recently bought and restored by Eugene's brother Peter, who brought it here for this very special display. From the racing point of view, the event appears to be very well organised, but as a spectator I came away a little disappointed. General admission was around £32, and there were no facilities outside of the paddock. Paddock access to the inner paddock was another 60 or so. Okay, you got food for that, but that brought the total to £95 roughly, which I do find it difficult to justify for a classic motorcycle event for one day. I've been told spectators' numbers have been falling, and having attended, I can understand why. It's a shame because there were some wonderful bikes and good racing. I just think a little more consideration needs to be given to the spectators. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you.